Welcome back. Our first talk in this session is Tim Greening from Parks Canada. Not only arsenic, investigating silver, gold, and lead chromate on Canadian collection of 19th century book and photo album covers.
I'm doing not only arsenic, investigating silver, gold, and lead chromate on a Canadian collection of 19th century book and photo album covers. So we're all very well familiar with this poison book project and how things really generated some social media interest with the bookmark, which also was sent here to Parks Canada. And also Karen Pacha at the Canadian Centre for Architecture was the other Canadian who was on the inaugural Zoom meeting of the Bibliotoxicology Working Group. So this meant collaboration could then occur between Parks Canada and the Canadian Centre for Architecture to investigate the poison books situation here. The Canadian Centre for Architecture, that building on the right there, it's in downtown Montreal, and it has about 220,000 volumes of both historic photo albums and books focused on the theme of architecture. And how did this collaboration between the two institutions happen? Well, Parks Canada is very interested in hazards in general that are occurring in collections, such as taxidermy or shoeboxes, as you can see on the right-hand side there, which definitely that was a emerald or Paris green coated shoebox. We're working with portable XRF right now, and we also have benchtop Raman capabilities, and also benchtop FTIR as well. And I myself have some experience with the taxidermy at the Royal Saskatchewan Museum there. That's me torturing a yellow-headed blackbird with the XRF. It's taxidermy though, up on the top left. So I have some enthusiasm for this arsenic stuff. These are the books that were in that collection, which was assessed by I, and arsenic was determined, of course, to be the colorant on these photo albums and books. So in the survey, what we had was, of course, as many of you are going to be familiar with, that green, chrome green that turns up in 19th century book covers that you get from the bookmark era, and searching by eye, we know that this is going to happen. And I was interested in how when you're doing this on XRF, what you're actually getting is a massive lead peak in the particular parameters that I'm running the instrument at. So I wanted to look more into that, which is one of the big factors here is that chrome green is 8 parts lead chromate to 1 part Prussian blue. So chrome green is in fact mostly lead chromate. And lead chromate, it's a very dense pigment with 64% lead stoichiometrically and only 16% chromium. And you're also going to have some factors, of course, about XRF, mainly fluorescence efficiency. So you create that bias on your spectrum when you are doing these tests. So, I mean, there's an example spectrum. So we would have expected, 4 times more lead than chromium, but when you're running just in basic spectrometer mode, if you're running a Brooker spectrometer, you're getting 16 times more lead signal than chromium. And I'm going to come back to explain that in a bit. But of course, if you're still detecting the chromium, and so you can plot it out, and you can see that there's quite a range here of books that contain lead and chromium, and only lead as well at the bottom there. So yeah, indeed, there is that nice correlation where you get the lead chromium ratio that must be coming from your lead chromate, making a nice linear line. And there's that one book that just had too much lead in it for the amount of chromium in it. And then there's a cluster of books that have lead that's well above trace, and yet you're not detecting chromium when even in this instance you should be detecting chromium, unless the lead is coming from another source. And again, we're already aware that there could be a lot of other sources of lead, preservatives and chemicals, or grounds in preparing fabrics, mordants, or things like that, which is an interesting area to explore. Haven't quite delved into that yet, but it's still lead is still lead. So we're seeing that the main situation when you're looking in that period of about 1840 to 1860 is lead, and we're doing more. As we already have, we literally launched the symposium with the first slide from Northwestern was about this. So because copper is more closer to arsenic on the periodic table, you're looking at only 4 atomic numbers difference there versus the 58 from chromium to lead. What you're seeing is that the stoichiometric ratio of percentage of arsenic to percentage of copper to arsenic in this case was really close to the XRF peak counts that you're getting, and that's already been addressed also by Colonial Williamsburg about Shields Green should have less arsenic. So that was only a hypothesis that there may be some ability to see that difference between Shields Green and Paris Green without Raman. And we have the color difference when they're fresh, not faded. So Northwestern and Colonial Williamsburg have some ideas about that too. So certainly on the right track in that regard. Always looking for Shields Green in collections just to gather more data. So yeah, the thing is the lead is of course an issue. We found only 3 arsenic containing books and a lot of lead. There were only 2 books that were clean, in fact. And my interest as well with the arsenic has been also the aniline dyes and the arsenic contamination of aniline dyes. So this particular book, Views of Buildings, including the Ghats along the River Barnez, Uttar Pradesh, India, was investigated also on the embroidery in the XRF analysis. And it was neat to suddenly see that that is in fact real gold thread with silver in the XRF, probably because that's gold plated on a silver thread. So that gives an idea of what kind of work goes in from a connoisseurship point of view on this book, what it looked like, what it cost. That was colonial Indian book design. And it was also one of the only 2 lead-free books when most of the greens that we were dealing with from Western books are contain lead from various sources, apparently. And so in our experience, the 400 to 700 nanometer spectrometer, that means your eyes, was really the most helpful to seek out these books. Like as soon as you see arsenical book from that 1840 to 1860 period, you're like, oh yeah, I see it. It's that psychedelic green. And XRF has been really good because you're able to detect both the arsenic and the lead and chromium. And Raman would be helpful. It's a technique we have, but it's not portable to most institutions. I already mentioned that issue. And you can maybe do some more things with the XRF data interpretation, and a little enthusiasm goes a long way. So that basically is what I had to say from the Parks Canada experience. So thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, Tim.